Hello and welcome to Education Talk. Now, this is one of your best programs on education on television. I'm Wilma. Today we'll be discussing various issues that are occurred in the educational sector throughout the week, and also the new and innovative ways in which kids learn these days. Now, to discuss these various issues with me is Dr. Chris Imafidon. He is in the studio with me today. Dr. Chris, you're very welcome to our studios.
Thanks for your kind invitation.
Now, a 36-year-old entrepreneur in Ivory Coast is launching Africa's first educational tablet. Thierry Ndufel came up with the idea of Qelasy when he thought of transferring a country's entire education curriculum onto a digital format, along with sounds, animations and interactivity. And you no longer need a satchel crammed with school books. Qelasy is a digital backpack, a tablet that will replace books, textbooks and even notepads. The Ivorian government will be introducing the tablets to 5,000 students in public schools, while some private schools in both Ivory Coast and Morocco will be running pilot projects. They have also had interest from Ukraine, Macedonia, Senegal, Nigeria and France. Dr. Chris, it is obvious that this is the phase all schools all over the world are getting into, the complete eradication of hard copies of textbooks, and this is down to the primary school level. Now, what about the UK?
The UK has been quite slow in picking up a lot of the technologies. I know that the introduction of the interactive whiteboard was an issue. Some teachers even vowed not to use the tool because they were used to old tools. So if we don't have resistance from the professional and from the practitioners, then we'll probably may be able to swim in this new sea of learning. But if we do, the only people that are going to suffer or that will lose out will be the students, because they'll be using the tools of yesteryears. They should be embraced, really, because we don't see any long-term disadvantage to the students in terms of learning or acquiring knowledge.
Let's look at the teachers. The teachers are also expected to go high-tech with these new gadgets and teach the students. Now, how many of them are willing to learn?
The BET Educational Roadshow that takes place every year did a survey that was about 4 years ago. And as at 4 years ago, less than 20% of teachers were ready to embrace the new tools. We're hoping that in a period of 4 years, if they're going to repeat that same survey today, we'll probably get about 10 or 15%, much more than what we had 4 years ago. But the educational establishment is very slow to change, extremely conservative. So we shouldn't hold out much hope in terms of having this same breed of teachers. If this generation of teachers pass away, then it'd be easier for you to introduce it at the teaching training level.
To wait for this generation of teachers to pass means a whole generation
might be
is
wasted.
going to suffer.
That's right. So that's a problem of having a conservative system or a conservative bunch of individuals that rule or assume positions in terms of leadership. If we've had the same people running our transport system, we'll still be on motorbikes by now. So what teachers need to be aware of is the advantage, the extra work that your child will need to do without your supervision. So in effect, you're reducing the workload of teachers. But if you want a paper-based system because they believe that's more reliable, that's more tested, that's more tried, it means that our students are going to suffer and other children from other nations will overtake us, sadly.
Definitely. The Scandinavian countries are already embracing this. France has said they would embrace the Qelasy tablet. But the point is, how do we make it faster for the children here in the UK?
The children in the UK can do it informally. You can go ahead, right now nothing stops any child from going to W.H. Smith or any of the bookshops to go and buy books that they want to read, or get an iPad from their parents and use it interactively. So parents may want to subvert the system, the old conservative system, by encouraging their students or exposing their children to this technology.
But the problem is that it would not be embraced in the classroom because the teacher is not using the tablet.
Yeah, because the teacher has lost leadership. The teacher has not embraced new technology. Most teachers have refused to come to the cutting edge of learning. They are more interested in the, if you like, the formality of going to a classroom every day and then shutting down at about 3 or 4. they want just the routine. They don't want such an upheaval, or what some people will call a revolution. They will rather want an evolution. That means a gradual introduction of different things while they are being tested or tried alongside. But that's a very weak excuse. I think by now we should be awakened to the fact that in medicine, technology is being used. In transportation, technology is being used. Why should we lock technology out of the classroom? I mean, it's disappointing that about 2 years ago, we were widely quoted that a very prominent British professor of physics said no computers should be in the classroom. That's about a year ago. He said, that's a prominent professor of science, physics, saying no computers should be in the classroom. So there's always going to be a tussle between, a real struggle between the conservative wing of teachers that believe that they must stick with the old system, and the young and vibrant, youthful young graduates that want to use and experiment and explore with every new tool. And
that gap is not about to be breached soon?
I don't think it will be breached, because they are both entrenched in their very established positions.
Well, let's go further now. Now, if your child loves gaming, do not discourage them at all. It may be well worth it, as you would see in this next report.
There's some huge voices in America and the UK and around the world saying children should be learning to code. You know, why are we not teaching our children to code?
I love programming computer games. I think it's more fun than playing them.
It's a valuable part of the economy, and it's a skill shortage, and we need good coders in this country.
There needs to be a big leap forward in thinking there to get it moving forward fast, and particularly, like, you know, how can we get coding into the curriculum faster? You know, it really is so super important.
My name's David Miller. I'm Chief Learning Architect at Qelasy Studios, and we're based here in London in Shoreditch.
Normally you get a team who are very much school-based, education-based, and they try to make a game that's fun.
By virtue of that, you kind of get a game that's very worthy, but really dull.
My classroom was always a place of play and humour and fun, but at the same time there was serious and deep learning going on, so the game has to be fun, it has to be engaging.
We wanted things that kids get really excited about and buzz in the playground, otherwise it doesn't work. We just got out this app called Qelasy, and it's all about learning to code via JavaScript.
It's a turn-based game, so it's kind of like mega chess, if you like, with robots. So you have these two robots, and they're both protecting a kind of a central core, and the idea is that each pair of robots has to move to the other side of the arena and hack the core of their opponents 3 times, and then they've won the game. In order to make their robots move at all, they've actually got to call functions in JavaScript.
The JavaScript is very much an introduction. It's for people that have never faced it before, which means that anyone can pick it up. We've targeted at 11 to 14 as a starting age, but we already know of 8 and 9-year-olds that have had a go with it because it is so well scaffolded and in a structured framework, and there's a tangible result to it as well.
In the classroom you would have a test, which is, you know, can you do this and can you do that? Whereas with a game, the test is the game itself. So if you have managed to defeat someone else with your robot, that is proof that you've learned how to code.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's like one of them games like strategy and kind of warfare, which a lot of kids like these days. The graphics are good on it as well. It's a lot of fun, just not when you're getting shot and stuff.
Yeah, that's what makes you want to like learn more about it, so that you can show it to your friends. Yeah, if you make a mistake, then it will just turn red, so then you can just go back to that code and rewrite what you done wrong. So it's quite easy to figure out, and it's quite easy to get the hang of the codes and stuff.
What I found fascinating was, in testing the game both in the UK and in the States, was how quickly kids just intuited what they should be doing. You know, they were straight in there using the correct syntax, they were correcting one another.
Comma, and then how many squares you would want to move forward, close brackets, and then semicolon.
I think games like Qelasy are very good at sparking interest. It's something that introduces them to coding in a particular way and shows that it can be fun.
Yes, I've got it to go where I wanted it to go. I'm so happy.
And yes, indeed, you are happy having learned how to code. And the good news is this: the Next Gen Academy, sponsored by Creative Industries and the government, have pledged cash to provide cutting-edge training in a sector worth at least £71 billion a year to the UK economy. Now, Dr. Chris, you have a webinar coming up on innovation.
Yes, it's really trying to know that every single device we have today requires some degree of programming. Every single device. So there is a software that is running that little thing that you think you're using in terms of remote control and your TV. There's a software that's running your mobile phone. There's a software happening literally everywhere. So if you cannot innovate and really drown yourself in the sea of programming, then you will be left behind. That's a penalty. And you don't want to say, oh, an adult has been left behind, and therefore my son and my daughter should be left behind, because everyone that is able to write a set of instructions is able to code. That's what coding is. Don't think that you need to have a diploma or a bachelor's degree to code. No, you don't need to be a trained computer scientist to code. You just need to have a love for writing instruction, experimenting with the instruction, and then coming back to verify the instruction and then change it. And the more you refine it, the better you are. We have had a 17-year-old Nick that wrote an app, and the app sold for multi-million-dollars. Yes. If that was not nurtured, that would have been suppressed, the student would have been frustrated, and the child maybe probably giving up on education because they don't want to go in that path. So every single child has talents that we can explore if we expose them to these materials, if we expose them to so-called gadgets. They are not gadgets now, they are really learning tools. They are opportunity for them to express their talent, express their interest, and even have it commercially harnessed to the advantage of the student. And that will build their confidence. That's why they say, oh, you mean I was able to start something from scratch, and this is now my invention, or this is my thoughts that has now been put down, and it's really making some impact, no matter how little the impact is. The fact that they follow the principles and they've been able to deliver a piece of code means that they've done something creative and is imaginative, because it was not there before. They thought of it, they wrote it up, and now it's done something. And no matter how little it is, that's what most people need to understand. If you read the book, The Road Ahead by Bill Gates, you see how he started his own programming in his early teens as a 13-year-old. So if he was able to do it in his generation, then this generation that has far more tools ought to be able to not just replicate it, but surpass whatever or exceed whatever he did in this time.
These are some of the tips you'll be giving parents and students at your webinar on innovation, how to harness the talent in a child and really use it for productivity, creativity, to be able to innovate.
Yes, you need to be able to know how to detect it, you need to know how to develop it, and it wouldn't cost you money. It's just imagination. It wouldn't cost you. You'll be using the current facilities you have at home. You don't need to buy a new desktop. You don't need to buy a new laptop. You use the current computing tools that you have at home, or that the student may be exposed to in the school, or even if you don't have it in the school or at home, you can go to the local library and be able to explore and use this facility. Just book the use of the computer, and you work with the child or supervise the child, and it doesn't have to be long hours. So there are a lot of hurdles that a lot of people imagine. There are a lot of preconceptions that people think, oh, you have to do this before you can do that. No, the barriers have completely broken down, and technology has moved everybody on at a very fast pace.
Which means if a child has the ability to graduate earlier than 21, that doesn't mean the child shouldn't be given the opportunity to graduate earlier than 21 from university.
The pace of learning should always be dependent on the learner, not on the system, not on the curriculum, not on the university. Well, I mean, we have 14-year-olds that received letters this week from the top universities asking them, do you mind applying to our degree program? So if the university can demonstrate flexibility up to that level, then we parents should be able to respond by supporting our students to do what they want to do now, not say, hold on, my friend, until you are 19, or hold on until you're 20. No. The age-dependent abilities do not exist. They were all created by humans. When you have a talent, you have a flow, you just flow in your talent, flow in your calling, and don't let any institutions try and sabotage the pace of your learning or development.
One of the challenges faced by students is the stereotype from parents when parents insist you'd have to go for this course and not recognizing the talent in that child. In that situation, how do we enlighten parents to recognize that the talent sometimes is for good?
The parents ought to look back in their school days and find how many of the 5 top students they had in class that eventually lived out their professional calling. Because if you look at it historically, then you are able to convince yourself, saying, yes, the fact that somebody was very good in this area, but was pushed or convinced or persuaded by their parents, teacher, or the institution to do something different, and after graduating, what happened? The student either got frustrated or completely withdrew from that profession and then pursued something else. That's the biggest proof. Case studies like that, and every parent has that in their if they walk back in time, or if they look back and reflect on their classmates, they will have 2 or 3 of their classmates that were extremely good in one area, but were persuaded because that area was not economically very productive or was not perceived to be of high status, and then they abandoned that and did something else that the society wanted to do, and now they're frustrated. So you don't want your son or your daughter to either get frustrated or abandon the course that they spend so much time and energy studying in the university and then just go and do something else. That's a wasted journey. They could have done something that they loved or something that they were passionate about.
Just before we get on to the next topic, give students one tip of what they'll be learning during the webinar.
You'll be given the opportunity to go online. You'll be supervised to go online, and you do a very brief search. And based on your search output, you'll be able to explore the facilities available to you. This is your interest. The search was determined by you. You'll just be guided on it. So you will see real-life demonstration of how much information is available out there on your topic. And then you'll be doing parallel browsing. You'll be able to go through 4 or 5 different websites at the same time. And you'll be able to differentiate what your visual output is, how to get visual output, how to get text output, how to get image output, and how to get a combined output. So most times now, people just walking in the blind, in the dark. They are not literate in the act of search and finding information online that is useful to you in whatever you want to study or learn about.
Not just any information that is useful, yes, and how to decipher that. Yeah. Now let's talk about parents. We're coming back to parents now, and school story time, as suggested by children's author Michael Rosen. Why should parents attend school story time?
Every single person that has a child in a school should embrace the opportunity to visit the school at every single opportunity. That's one. That's a principle. More importantly, if you go to the school during the storytelling time, you're able to replicate that at home. So when you come back on Saturdays or in the evenings or at weekends, you're able to sit with your son or your daughter and then be able to say, okay, this is what you did in school. Remember you did well in school. Can you replicate that for me? So you're building a bridge between what they are doing in school and then bringing that home. And you're able to reinforce and, if possible, extend it. The second thing is that in school is always very limited in terms of time. But at home, it's limitless. You can sit down with your son or your daughter for 2 or 3 hours and you go through what he or she wants to read, not what you want the child to read. Because reading is just the process and you want them to enjoy the process. I don't care about the content. The content is only secondary. So you are able to literally reinforce because you saw at first hand. If you don't go, you will only hear what your son or your daughter said happened there. And they will give you their own slant, they will be presented with their own slant, or give you their edited version, or tell you what they think is the highlight of the case, of what happened in school. Meanwhile, what you will see will be totally different from what they may see. So you need to go there and ask follow-up questions. So you're getting education indirectly while you are trying to educate your son.
And statistics really shows that spending 5 or 10 minutes a day with your child to go through what they learned in school really enhances the aptitude of the child.
Yeah, it boosts your achievement, it boosts the understanding of your child, and then it brings learning home. It takes learning away from the classroom because the stereotype is that we are in the classroom to learn. Once we stop, or once we leave the classroom, we close the book and we no longer learn. The truth is that you learn more outside the classroom than within the classroom. So you must be able to drive that home so that the son or your daughter enjoys it the student enjoys it, and the child even plays, and through play are able to learn.
Let's go to universities now. Hundreds of thousands of students are getting ready to start university, and they are wondering, how exactly do I start? What tips do you have for them? Interviews, the admission process, the right persuasion, and the words to use.
Yeah, so the first thing is you look at, you're making a university application. To start, before you start, you want to make a university application. And when you're going to make your university application, there are key things that the universities will be very interested in. They will be interested in your past, that means your past achievements, your past attainments, and whether or not you had additional responsibilities while you were studying. So if you were a senior prefect, if you're a head girl, whatever role or responsibilities you think may be of use. I'm not even saying you are sure it's of use. So let the guidance be able to select for you what they think they don't need. So some people are very economical with what they did and only give their own very selective highlights. No, put everything there. Put in bullet points without writing long essays. In bullet point, I did this, I did that, I did that. Even if you have stopped playing rugby now, when you play rugby when you were year 8 and year 9 and year 10, you need to put that there, you were a rugby player. And whatever level you achieved, whether you played for your school or you played for your county or you played for your county, you must put it there. Things that you didn't even do within school, if you sang in a choir, you must put there you were a chorister, and include that clearly. Whether you sang alto, soprano, or whatever, or tenor, whatever part you sang, put that there. And for how many years? If you played in an orchestra, put it there. If you assisted in an orchestra without necessarily being a musician, you must also put that there, because it paints a picture of who you are. And you are an individual. The more you tell about yourself, the more they see the individual talent that you've manifested in different areas, formally or informally. So don't just keep it to formal. You must also put informal achievements there. If you were a member of the Scouts, please put it there. And if you had any role that you had to play, you need to also include that. Which means if you were a member of a fellowship in a church, you still have to put it there. Especially if you had any contribution. If you had any contribution whatsoever, you have to show that this was what I brought along, and this is what I'm still capable of doing now, because that's essentially what they're reading from it. If you did it in the past, you're ready to replicate it now. Or redo it in the future. If you haven't done it before, that is a strange thing for you. Then if you've studied anything independently, if you learned a language outside the school, if you've learned any sport outside school, please bring that in, because they want to see that you can do things on your own without somebody breathing down your neck. So. Quite a lot, because most parents just think the most important thing is the grades the student achieves. Oh. It is one of the important things. It is not the most important things. There are students that have lower academic grades that are still picked up by top university on the basis of their extracurricular achievements. So the grade is important, but please don't think that even if you haven't made the grades, if you think you have not got all the top grades, still make an application and get some feedback on your other achievement. That's why they ask for achievement and attainment. It's not just something that you got. Most people that get the top grades will not be able to get the top university, sadly. And for those who go for summer courses and learning, it's important because such things would also count towards the admission process as well. Yes, because summer is optional. It's not statutory. But during the school term, it's required by law. So if you did it as an extra bit that was of your own volition, or you just wanted to show your interest in that area, then anyone looking at your application will be very, very keen to find out, A, why did you do it? And 2, you mean you had so much interest and you made the extra effort to, instead of playing, but concentrate on this. So it might even underplay or underline your current professional desire or your dreams as a professional, because there are skills like determination that was manifested in acquiring other skills that are not relevant to your so-called academic life. So having the grades is not just enough. Your extracurricular activities also matters, and that is for admissions into universities. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris. But just before we go, if you're a parent out there or a child and you're wondering, a student now, and you're wondering, how can I learn coding? Or a parent who sees the child gaming every time, do not discourage them at all. What you need to do is to replace the app, the gaming, with a coding app, where they would also learn how to code.
code and game as well. And to get more information, you can send emails to educationtalk@lovotv.co.uk. Dr. Chris, thank you so much for coming on to our program today.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Viewers, this is Education Talk. Enjoy the rest of our programs.